You're watching Shark Tank. Some guy walks in with a jar of hot sauce, homemade label, big smile, clearly nervous, but trying not to show it. And you're thinking, okay, this is simple. Guy made hot sauce, wants money, easy. But then the sharks start talking. What's your valuation? What are your margins? Are you profitable? What's your EBITDA? How are you acquiring customers? And what's the cost per acquisition? The hot sauce guy is nodding confidently like he's got this. The sharks are nodding like they understand everything. Everyone is nodding. You're nodding too. But bro, you were just trying to watch someone sell hot sauce. When did this become a math exam?
And that's the thing about business. Everyone acts like it's obvious, like you should just know how it works. But nobody actually sits down and explains it from the beginning. So that's what this video is. Everything about how business actually works. From what a business even is, to how it makes money, to why some fail and some become billion-dollar companies. No complicated words, no MBA required. Just the explanation nobody ever gave you.
So, what even is a business? Like, actually? And I know that sounds like a stupid question, but just stay with me. Because most people skip this part and then get confused later. A business is basically just this. Someone has something people want, and they sell it. That's it. That's the whole thing at its core. You bake cookies. People want cookies. You sell cookies. That's a business. You're good at fixing computers. People need their computers fixed. You charge for it. That's a business. You make funny videos. People watch them. You get paid by advertisers. That's a business. The form can be anything. A shop, an app, a service, a product, a website. Doesn't matter. If someone wants it and you're charging for it, that's a business.
But here's where it gets interesting. Not everything that makes money is automatically a good business, and not every good idea automatically makes money. And that gap between a good idea and an actual working business is where most people get lost. So let's break down how a business actually works from the ground up. Types of businesses. Let's go back to the hot sauce guy. His name is Marcus. He's been making hot sauce in his kitchen for years. Everyone who tries it says it's the best they've ever had. So Marcus thinks, okay, I should sell this. First thing he needs to figure out is what kind of business is this actually going to be? You've got a sole proprietorship. That's just you, one person running a business alone. Simplest form, easy to start. But if something goes wrong legally or financially, that's all on you personally. Then you've got a partnership. That's two or more people running a business together. Marcus might bring in his friend to help. They share the work and share the profits. But they also share the problems. If the business gets sued, both of them are on the hook.
Then you've got an LLC, a limited liability company. This is a really popular one, especially for small businesses. You might be thinking, what does limited liability even mean? Okay, so imagine Marcus's hot sauce accidentally makes someone sick, and that person decides to sue. If Marcus is just a sole proprietor, they can come after his personal money, his car, his savings, everything. But if Marcus has an LLC, the business is its own separate legal thing. They can sue the business, but they can't touch Marcus's personal stuff. His personal life is protected. That's what limited liability means. Your personal finances are separate from your business finances. It's basically a legal shield. Marcus is just starting out, so he goes with an LLC. Smart move. And then you've got a corporation, the big one. Companies like Apple and Nike are corporations. More complex, more rules, but also more ways to raise money and grow big. This is what companies become when they want to go on the stock market.
The three numbers that actually matter. Okay, so Marcus has his LLC. Now he needs to figure out the money side. And this is where most people's eyes glaze over, but I promise it's not that complicated. There are three numbers every business needs to understand: revenue, costs, and profit. Revenue is all the money coming in. Every jar of hot sauce Marcus sells, that's revenue. Costs are all the money going out. The ingredients, the jars, the labels, the kitchen equipment, the website, the packaging, all of that costs money. And profit is what's left over after you subtract costs from revenue.
So if Marcus makes $10,000 selling hot sauce, but spends $8,000 making and selling it, his profit is $2,000. This is where the sharks on Shark Tank are always asking, are you profitable? They're asking, is there actually money left over after all your costs? Because a business that makes $1 million in revenue but spends $1,001 to do it is actually losing money. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. You'll hear that a lot in business.
Now, within costs, there are two types, and this matters. Fixed costs are things you pay no matter what. Even if Marcus sells 0 jars of hot sauce this month, he still has to pay for his website, his kitchen rental, his insurance. Variable costs are things that change based on how much you produce. The more hot sauce Marcus makes, the more ingredients he needs. Understanding the difference matters because it affects how you plan. That number where you've sold just enough to cover all your costs before making a single dollar of profit, that's called the break-even point, and every business owner needs to know theirs.
The word sharks won't stop saying margins. You heard them ask about margins and nodded like you knew. So what is it? Margin is basically how much of each sale you actually keep as profit. So Marcus sells a jar of hot sauce for $10. It costs him $4 to make that jar. Ingredients, packaging, labels, everything. So he keeps $6 from every sale. That $6 divided by the $10 price, that's a 60% margin.
You might be thinking, okay, is 60% good or bad? It depends on the industry, but generally, the higher the margin, the better, because it means more money left over for everything else. If Marcus has a 60% margin and sells $1 million worth of hot sauce, he has $600,000 to work with after making the product. But if his margin was only 10%, he'd only have $100,000 left from that same million in sales. Same revenue, completely different reality. That's why two businesses can both be making $1 million and one is thriving and one is barely surviving. Margins tell you the real story.
The hot sauce guy walks in and says, my company is worth $2 million. And the sharks go, interesting. And you're sitting at home going, how did he come up with that number? He's selling hot sauce from his kitchen. So how do you decide what a business is worth? Here's the honest answer. It's part math and part opinion. One common way is to look at the profit and multiply it. So if Marcus's hot sauce business makes $200,000 profit per year, investors might say, okay, we'll value this at 10 times that. So the business is worth $2 million. Why 10 times? Because if you bought the whole business for $2 million and it keeps making $200,000 a year, you'd get your money back in 10 years. That seems reasonable to an investor.
But here's where it gets interesting. Some businesses get valued at way more than their current profits suggest. Why? Because investors are betting on the future, not just today. A hot sauce company making $200,000 a year is probably always going to be roughly a $2 million business. But a tech startup making $200,000 a year might be building something that could make $200 million a year in 5 years. So investors value it at $1 billion based on what they think it could become. That's why companies like Uber and Airbnb were valued at billions of dollars before they were even profitable. Investors were betting on the future potential, not the current reality. And sometimes they're right, and sometimes they're very, very wrong. Customer acquisition cost. How much does it cost to get one person to buy? Customer acquisition cost, or CAC if you want to sound smart, is simply how much money it costs you to get one new customer. So Marcus starts running ads on Instagram to sell his hot sauce. He spends $1,000 on ads. Those ads bring in 50 new customers. His customer acquisition cost is $20. He spent $20 to get each new customer. Now, here's why this matters. If Marcus makes $6 profit per jar and the average customer only ever buys 1 jar, he spent $20 to make $6. He's losing money on every single customer. That's a disaster. But if the average customer loves the hot sauce and buys a jar every month for 2 years, they spend $240 total. And Marcus makes about $140 profit from them over that time. Now that $20 acquisition cost makes total sense. That total value of a customer over their whole relationship with your business is called lifetime value, or LTV. And the golden rule of business is this: your lifetime value needs to be higher than your customer acquisition cost, preferably a lot higher. If it costs you more to get a customer than that customer ever spends with you, your business is basically a money furnace.
So you must be thinking, where does the money to start actually come from? It's called funding. Let's learn a little more about it. Marcus has a great product. He understands his numbers, but he wants to grow fast and he needs money to do it. He's got a few options. First is bootstrapping. This just means funding the business yourself, using your own savings, reinvesting your profits, growing slowly without outside money. Full control, no debt, but slower growth. Second is loans. Go to a bank, borrow money, pay it back with interest. You keep full ownership of your business, but you owe that money back whether you're doing well or not.
Third is investors. This is the Shark Tank route. Someone gives you money in exchange for a piece of your business. And you might be thinking, why would Marcus give away part of his company? Isn't that losing something? Yes and no. Imagine Marcus owns 100% of a business worth $200,000. His 100% is worth $200,000. Now a shark invests and takes 20%. But with that investment, Marcus grows the business to $2 million. Marcus now owns 80% of a $2 million business. That's $1.6 million. He gave away 20%, but his actual share went from $200,000 to $1.6 million. He's way better off, even though he owns less of it. A smaller piece of a much bigger pie beats 100% of a tiny pie.
You must be thinking, because of all this, now I know how to be successful in business. But you need to remember, businesses fail too. So let's learn a little more about why businesses fail. Around 90% of startups fail. And you might be thinking, wait, 90%? Then why does anyone even try? Because the 10% that succeed can change your life completely. And also because most failures teach you enough to succeed the next time. But why do they fail in the first place?
The number one reason is no market need. Basically, nobody actually wanted what they were selling. The founder thought it was a great idea, their friends and family said it was a great idea, but actual strangers with actual money didn't care enough to buy it. This is why successful businesses always start by solving a real problem that real people actually have. Not a problem you invented, not a problem only you have, a problem lots of people have and are currently frustrated by.
Second reason is running out of money, also called running out of runway. The business was spending more than it was making, and eventually the bank account hit zero. This happens a lot when businesses grow too fast before they've figured out how to actually make money. They hire too many people, spend on offices and marketing, and then suddenly revenue isn't keeping up and they can't pay their bills. Third reason is the wrong team. The idea was good, but the people executing it couldn't make it work. And fourth is competition. Someone else did it better, cheaper, or faster. This happens a lot in tech especially. A startup builds something cool, and then a giant company just copies it and crushes them. That was a ton of information, but now you actually understand how business works. If this helped you out, subscribe. I make videos explaining the important stuff that nobody else bothers to teach properly. And sorry if I missed something out. If you know more about business, write it in the comments. Let's learn from you too. See you next time.